Us Brits love saving money, and we also love the cash ISA. Having a tax-free savings account that lets you put in up to £20,000 per tax year has meant that putting money away for a rainy day has become a national sport. At the moment, there is around £300 billion sitting inside cash ISAs, and around 30% of UK adults hold one, making it the most popular type of ISA by a long way. However, not everything is as it seems, and these accounts are under threat from potential changes. And not only that, I think there's a much bigger problem that we need to address with saving money that could be costing you way more than you actually realise. The cash ISA has been around since the 6th of April 1999, when it was introduced alongside the other types of individual savings accounts. It replaced the old tax-free savings accounts known as T&Cs, which have been going since 1991, when they were put in place by the old John Major government. The concept of the ISA is a simple one that most people understand, especially when it comes to using the cash ISA. Every UK adult can put in up to £20,000 of cash every single tax year, and all of the interest on that cash is protected from tax. There's nothing to pay, nothing to worry about, so you can just focus on putting that money away and saving up for basically whatever you want. Whether it's saving up for a house deposit, a new car, or even retirement, a cash ISA lets you do it. Most accounts are flexible, allowing you to pull money in and out at any point, and they get government protection up to £85,000 just in case anything were to happen. No risk, simple to use, it all sounds great. However, there's a bit of a darker side to the cash ISA that I don't think most people are aware of, and it's nobody's fault, but we do need to address it. Remember the saying that if there's no risk, there's no reward. Well, a cash ISA has virtually no risk at all, as I've just mentioned. Your money never goes down in value, it only goes one way, and you know exactly what you're going to get, especially if you get a fixed rate one, which is everywhere on the market. For example, you might put in £5,000 with an interest rate of 4% a year, so once your 12 months is up, you would expect your account to be £5,200. Now, as you'll be aware, the rate of interest that you get offered in a cash ISA is closely linked to the base rate of interest set by the Bank of England. When rates are high, you'll see higher rates offered by the ISA providers, and then when rates are low, you'll see much lower rates. Over the last few years, we've seen interest rates get put up by the bank, and savers have been enjoying some much higher rates than they were used to getting. For example, between 2014 and 2021, the average rate offered by a cash ISA was just 1%, whereas right now, in the summer of 2025, you're much closer to getting rates around 4%. Now, here's the biggest issue that I don't think most people are paying attention to. On their own, the interest rates that you can get don't tell the whole story. Let me show you a quick example. If you saved £1,000 a year for the last 25 years into a cash ISA, up until the end of 2024, you'd have £34,392. Sounds like a nice sum of money on the face of it. You've put £25,000 of your own money in, and you've made a nice tidy sum of almost another £10,000. All done completely risk-free and totally protected. However, the issue is that over the long run, the value of your money decreases due to the effects of inflation. £100 in today's prices would be the same as £10 several decades in the past. As the years move on, you need more and more of the same money to buy the same things. Now, going back to our example, did you know that during that 25-year time period of 1999 and 2024, the effects of inflation would have actually meant that your cash ISA would have lost money in real terms? During that same period of time, if you would have got the rate of inflation rather than your interest rates, you would have ended up with £38,992. What this means is that cash ISA savers during this period actually lost money in real terms. It's a bit of a pain to get your head around first, but basically if you get an interest rate of say 5% in 1 year, but inflation is running at 10% in the same year, then you end up 5% behind. The real value is what really matters, and it leaves you with less buying power to actually do things with your money. On paper, the amount might look bigger and you might feel good about all of your savings. However, the truth is that they've not gone anywhere, and you would have been likely far better off doing something else with that cash. On that note, here's where things get interesting and where I think people need to be focusing before they make a decision about what to do with their money. Now, earlier we said that if you take no risk, you're going to get no rewards. So therefore, if we flip that saying around, in order to get more rewards, we need to take greater risks. This is the part that scares the life out of most people and why we have so much money tied up in savings accounts, even though the cash would have been far better used elsewhere, like in investing, for example. You might have seen recently that the Chancellor is considering reducing the amount of money that you can put into a cash ISA down from £20,000 per year to just £4,000 or £5,000. This change was close to happening in the Mansion House speech, which took place earlier this year. However, it was removed after a huge backlash from savers and organisations like building societies. They claimed that cash ISAs were being used for people saving up for house deposits, and it would affect people's chances of getting on the ladder. However, even after the backlash and the removal of this policy, it hasn't gone anywhere, and there is still talk that changes to cash ISA accounts could be coming before the end of the year, possibly even in the upcoming autumn statement. Now, going back to the point about risk and reward, the reason that this change was even being talked about in the first place was to try and encourage more people to invest their money rather than just keeping it in a cash savings account. Money invested, when done for the long run, typically generates much greater returns than money saved, which is no surprise when you're taking more risk. However, as admirable as the goals are, I've been critical about the change on my channel as I think this possible move is going about things the wrong way. Let me just show you something that goes back to the example I explained earlier. Remember how between 1999 and 2024 you would have lost money in real terms with saving your money? Well, let me show you an example of what could have happened if you chose to invest it instead. Now, I'm not going to pick some crazy example and invest in hindsight here. I'm definitely not going to say you should have put it all in Bitcoin or one single individual stock that's really, really hot at the moment that nobody knew about at the time. Let's keep things really simple and really well diversified. And in fact, I can use the same source as before because they backtested what the same investor would have got if they had stayed with their £1,000 a year saving. Here's two different outcomes they could have seen. If the saver invested into a globally diversified investment, something that I typically talk about on this channel a lot, they would have seen a total account value of £83,603. That's almost £50,000 more just for choosing to invest their money rather than save it. As a second option, just for fun, if they went along with only choosing to invest in North America, they could have ended up with a huge £120,660. That's quite something from putting in just £25,000 of their own money over that long period of time. And it's why investing is just so powerful when done in the long run. Now, I'm not a financial advisor and I never claim to be one. And at the end of the day, it's always a decision that you need to make when deciding whether to invest or what to do with your money. You're not alone if you've got no idea how investing works or if you've never even thought about it. Towards the end of the video, I'll give you some more pointers to help you get yourself started. But for now, let's keep digging a little bit deeper. When you ask people why they don't invest their money and instead keep it all in a cash ISA for years, the answer often goes something like this. In a Vanguard study back in June, people were asked about their saving and investing habits, and here's a couple of key findings. 63% of people preferred holding cash over investing, and when asked why, the top reasons were that they didn't understand investing well enough and that the lack of information was their biggest concern. In another bit of research, the Investment Association found some similar points too. Firstly, almost 1 in 5 adults have never even heard of stocks and shares ISAs in the first place. And even a quarter of those who have heard about them knew nothing about them at all. They also found out that of those people who haven't invested, 39% of them said no amount of money in their savings would make them comfortable investing. These are just staggering to me. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think of these as well. And finally, other key points that keep getting raised can be seen from all kinds of surveys in different firms. The topics get brought up time and time again. It's being scared of the market volatility, it's not knowing how it works, and the fear of losing money. Reducing the limit of the cash ISA, therefore, in my view and many others, will do nothing to solve the issue of trying to get Brits to invest their money rather than keep saving it year after year. All you'll end up doing is forcing people to save their money in even lower interest accounts or just push people into paying tax on their savings interest. So a lot of people are scared of losing money, which is why it makes total sense, and they choose to save it instead of doing anything else. And Without being taught how to invest or what the other options are, it's no surprise that we have hundreds of billions of pounds tied up in savings accounts. However, as we saw from the example earlier, saving money for the long run might not even beat the effects of inflation. And ultimately, this is the enemy that all of us need to beat. Regardless of what we choose, we need to make sure that the money we have today actually holds its value or hopefully beats inflation over that long run. Now, even when comparing saving to investing, should we ditch the cash ISA and go all in on investing? Well, no, not quite. There's plenty of periods in history with investing where you could have been better off saving, as the stock market can do anything, especially in the short term. Just think over the past few years, although mostly it has been great for investors, we did get a bad year in 2022, and then before that you had the shock from the pandemic, the global financial crisis before that, and then before that, the dot-com bubble. The key thing to saving or investing, for me at least, all comes down to what you need and what your timescales are. If you're saving money specifically for a reason in the short term, maybe in the next year, the next 2 years or so, then saving will almost always be the best thing to do. You know what you're going to end up with, it's all protected, and there's no risk of volatility that you might see when you're investing instead in the stock market. However, for any period that's slightly longer, here's where it's up to you to figure out what's right. Long term for me at least means around 5 years, but you might decide that it needs to be a lot more than that. A cash ISA, in my view at least, is not designed as a tool to save your money for the long run. It's there for short-term needs, short-term goals, and a place to park your money that you don't need right now. But the moment you start looking longer term, I really do think that most people should be looking to invest their money, and it's what I've been talking about on this channel for years. The challenge is always going to be getting over that initial hurdle and figuring out just how to do it safely and in a way that meets your own tolerance for risk. Everyone is going to have a different answer here, and that's why investing can be such a difficult thing to get started and to stick with. Now, thankfully though, I do think that getting started investing is easier than it's ever been, and if the cash ISA does get its allowance reduced or some other changes get made to it, there's plenty of ways around it with investing. A stocks and shares ISA, for example, is another great type of account that lets you invest your money completely tax-free in the same way as the cash ISA lets you save tax-free. What's also useful is that if you do have money inside a cash ISA, you can actually move it to another type of ISA, like a stocks and shares ISA, to get started investing. And a good thing about moving money between your ISAs is that it doesn't reduce your £20,000 allowance for that current tax year. The allowance is only used up when you add in brand new money, and money already inside your account is not counted. That's something that lots of people still get very confused about all the time. So what do you think? Is it time to ditch your cash ISA and think about investing? Interest rates are coming down, inflation's still pretty high, and the real returns of your money, in the long term at least, could potentially be really bad. Or are you too skeptical about all of this and you're getting ready to fight Rachel Reeves to make sure she doesn't reduce your savings allowance for the year? I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to drop me a note below before you head off to the next video. And on that note, if you are brand new to investing and you need a bit of help to get started, here's a really useful video I made talking you through how to get started. I've been doing this for more than 10 years, and I hope that I can pass on as much knowledge as possible so you don't have to go through the same problems I had when I got started. As always, see you in the next video. Happy investing.